Hi, my name is Teddy Svoronos. I'm a lecturer in public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School, and I teach the first year statistics sequence to Masters in Public Policy students. So these are students from a wide variety of backgrounds who have to take this first year stat sequence to get used to how to use statistics in a policy space. One of the problems that I encounter quite often is simply that there are a lot of specific skills in the course that students just need to practice a lot in a lot of different scenarios in a lot of different ways. And we have practice problems that we can share with them, but there aren't enough, and some are too hard, some are too easy, depending on the student. And so I thought to use generative AI to essentially create unlimited practice problems to try to zero in on particular skills that I want students to be good at, even as they start to weave together the higher level concepts of the course. So here are some of the skills that I have focused on. And I'm going to zero in this session on number 5, explaining ideas to a policymaker. We really focus on learning the statistics, but we also need them to be able to explain them in a way that's accessible to people who are not well-versed in statistics themselves. So what I did was I tried to develop a prompt, a pretty long prompt for ChatGPT to be able to turn ChatGPT into a persona that the student can then interact with. And the persona was a policymaker who was trying to explain a concept and used a concept incorrectly, and I want the student to be able to correct them in a way that's both technically correct and accessible. So here's what that prompt looks like. It's a two-parter. Basically, I'm telling ChatGPT to take on the role of a policymaker, and ChatGPT's sort of meta prompt is that they're trying to develop the student's ability to talk about statistical concepts well. And so ChatGPT is asked to pretend to be a policymaker, provide them with a policy-related scenario, and use a idea from the course in a way that's not quite correct. That's almost there, but not quite correct. And so I give a list in the second part of the prompt of the kinds of distinctions and ideas that I really want them to focus on. And so I tell ChatGPT, select one of these ideas, create a policy relevant scenario, and misuse one of these concepts. And then the student will try to correct you, and you will then evaluate whether it was correct, accessible, and also using examples specific to the concept instead of just kind of high level abstractions. So in practice, we then have this big prompt, and students can just paste this into ChatGPT, and what they get is something like this. ChatGPT pretends it's a policymaker. It talks about some program. In this case, it's a sick day related program, and it misuses the concept of the average. It says that the average relates to all participants instead of just being an average value, and so it asks the student to then correct it. I give it a very, very kind of basic explanation, and ChatGPT takes that in, gives an alternative that fleshes things out in more depth, and so gives you different ideas to use in how you explain things. And then if I ask for feedback on my explanation, it goes through each of those criteria and talks about basically how I could improve it in a particular way as a student. So this is a thing that you can then ask ChatGPT to do over and over and over again and really get better at refining the kinds of words and phrases that you use when trying to explain a statistical concept to somebody who is themselves not very well versed in statistics. So this was, I think, quite useful, and a lot of folks found it quite useful. And so what I started doing is doing this for all of those concepts that I listed earlier, and I created this basically giant meta prompt, which was a combination of specific subprompts, each of which are specific kind of practice problems that I want students to make. And I can tell students, take this whole chunk of text, you don't have to read it, paste it into ChatGPT, and here's what you'll get. ChatGPT says, here are 5 concepts that I can help you with. Which one do you want to talk about? And in doing so, then the students can choose to practice again and again each of these kind of sub ideas that are really important for our course. Some high level ideas about this is the prompt itself. All I'm doing as a teacher is giving students text to plug into a tool like ChatGPT. It lets you design these interactions that students can use to study, and students can give it feedback saying, make this harder. Can we do this about a different concept? Those sorts of things. And it really helps them solidify core ideas by practicing them. And then in the context I just gave you, it also allows you to give ChatGPT a persona that students might be interacting with in the future. When deciding how to make prompts for yourself, 2 big pictures ideas are: first, I started to realize that I'm kind of treating the prompt as a training guide. I'm saying, here are the things we want the students to do. Here's how you want them to do it. So really flesh it out. So as you saw, that prompt was quite long. I think having a really fleshed out idea of what you want ChatGPT to do and to tell it to do that is quite important. And then secondly, you really have to stress test them. Ask either yourself or a teaching team member to do it a lot and to sort of see what kinds of answers it gives to make sure it's giving consistent answers, useful answers at the right level of your course, and so on and so forth. So that's how I used ChatGPT and generative AI to create basically unlimited practice problems for my students to be able to reinforce some of the core ideas in the course, which I had previously struggled with getting the kind of specificity that I was hoping for.